Ji Ayano, Sasri Akal, and welcome to the Love, Laugh and Live chat show with myself and Dav Ubi.
So प्यार करो हंसो ते जुग जुग जियो वाला शो शुरू करने तो पहला ही कहना है सी
Love with passion.
Love with pleasure.
And live with peace. ਤਾਂ ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰੋ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਿਲ ਨਾਲ
हंसो दिल भर के
ਤੇ ਜੀਓ ਸ਼ਾਂਤ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ.
So my name is Devinder Ubi, or they call me Dav Ubi. I'm a life and spiritual coach, and sitting next to my beautiful co-host.
And my name is Kudyal Garcha, and I'm an empowerment and resilience coach.
So we're both here to inspire and help to fulfill people's lives by sharing our unique experiences and our knowledge through the coaching that we both do together.
So, Dav, what are we going to be discussing today?
International Women's Day. This is actually celebrated every year, 8th of March, but actually I think we're celebrating most of the whole month of March as well, so we're going to continue till the end of March. So every year, International Women's Day theme hunda hai. So this year's theme is going to be on equality and equity. So it's celebrated, like we said, every year for women's contribution to society, economy, and culture and politics. So and like I say, or in any other areas that we feel that there is advancement in women evolving. It's also a step towards gender equality and in all areas of our lives, and the work that remains to be done to guarantee it.
So मैं थोनों पंजाबी च दसदी हां भी जेड़ा असीं अज प्रोग्राम करना it's to do with International Women's Day. तां ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਆ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰੇਕ ਸਾਲ ਥੀਮ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਥੀਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ladies contribution ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਆ to do with IT ਤਾਂ normally it's to do with gender equality, politics ਵੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ, culture ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਆ, society ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ladies ਦਾ contribution ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ celebrate ਕਰੀਦਾ ਹਰੇਕ ਸਾਲ.
So this International Women's Day shuru hoya in the year 1908, and it was when the workers protested against child labour in New York, America the rich, and since then it's become a regular annual celebration.
Yeah, so ਜਿਹੜਾ International Women's Day ਸੀਗਾ ਉਹ ਹਨਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ in 1908 ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਡੈਵ ਨੇ ਹੁਣ ਦੱਸਿਆ. So ਇੱਥੇ ਸੀਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਫੈਕਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਾਉਂਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ. ਸੋ ਉਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਸਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਸਹੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਸਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਹਰੇਕ ਸਾਲ ਇਹ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਏ ਸੀਗੇ.
Yeah, so only 22% of women have access to higher paid jobs within IT that's to do with computers and everything. It's still a male-dominated area. So this can affect women's advancement massively as IT is the way forward. Because everything's done through technology. We all live in a digital world, and if we think about it, our mobile phones, our computers, our cars, everything digitally becomes more and more automated.
So ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਡੈਵ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਆ ਕਿ 22% ਤਾਂ 22% ਜਿੱਦਾਂ 22 ਲੋਕ ਹਰੇਕ 100 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ IT ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀ ਵਰਲਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਥੋੜਾ ਆ. ਸੋ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਵੂਮਨ ਡੇਜ਼ ਹਾਈਲਾਈਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੂਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ ਕਰਕੇ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੋਚੀਏ IT ਹਰੇਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ every single thing that we use IT is involved in it ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ mobile phones ਗੱਡੀਆਂ TV everything is becoming more and more automated.
Even this program IT that we get on any siga. So but women, this is what we're sort of making awareness that women need to be recognized for their expertise and for their skills in IT, because women are very clever and we sort of like dismissed their expertise in that sense.
Yeah, so ਅਸੀਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ IT ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਲੇਡੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ clever ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਆ ਪਰ ਕਦੇ because it's a male dominated area ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬੰਦੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਇਸ ਫੀਲਡ 'ਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ so ladies maybe because of that reason ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਇਸ ਪਾਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ but ਅਸੀਂ explain ਕਰਨਾ ਵੀ why it is important ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸ਼ੌਕ ਹੈਗਾ you should definitely still pursue it. So ਅਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ about Hidden Figures. ਇਹ ਹੈਗੀ ਇੱਕ ਮੂਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੋਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੇਖੀ ਆ. It's a brilliant film. I think it's on Netflix.
Actually, no, I actually watched it on the Disney Channel.
Oh, was it on the Disney Channel?
It used to be on
that.
Netflix,
Yeah.
and then it's actually ended up watching it on Disney Channel.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So Disney Channel te hega, the film da naam hega Hidden Figures. So ਇਹ 2016 ਤੇ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ there were 3 African American women who worked for NASA. ਤਾਂ NASA ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈਗਾ
No, the film was made in 2016.
Oh, sorry, yeah. And so the African American women, they worked for NASA. ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ rocket ਬਣਦੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ they go to the moon or they go to space. And ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਜਿਹੜੇ launch ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੰਮ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ
the reason I see the reason we see ਇਹ story ਬਾਰੇ discuss ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ we're trying to say this is going back in the 1970s that although we women see especially African American women especially with the racist thing going on so we're trying to explain here that these women had the brains very powerful minds that they're able to launch these rockets and American men into space. So we're just trying to show that women are incredible beings as well, not just men who have expertise in IT, such women are too.
And we're just trying to ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ African American ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਲੋਕ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਔਖਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ because of their colour ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਾਂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਮਿਲਦੇ to actually do what the people have the opportunity to do now. So ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਮੂਵੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਚੀਵਮੈਂਟ ਇਹ 3 ਲੇਡੀਜ਼ ਨੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ the African American women ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੀ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਨਸਪਾਇਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਜੋ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ then make sure you do it. So dream big. So the first person, ਉਹਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਸੀਗਾ Katherine Johnson, was also a part of the Apollo 11 mission to the moon and the space shuttle and was honoured computation her groundbreaking work in space travel. So ਉਹਨੂੰ award ਮਿਲਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨੇ ਕੰਮ ਇਸ area ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ which is to do with space shuttle. She was so famous for that. The ਦੂਜੀ lady ਸੀਗੀ ਉਹਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਸੀਗਾ Dorothy Vaughan. That she was the first African American supervisor as a specialist on the frontier electronic computing, and that was to do with IBM. She was regarded as one of the most brilliant minds of NASA. So ਜਿਹੜਾ Dorothy Vaughan ਸੀਗੀ, she was the first supervisor. ਜਿਹਦਾ ਉਦਾਂ ਦੀ opportunities ਮਿਲਦੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ladies ਨੂੰ. So for her to get that's a really really big achievement. ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨੀ ਦਿਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੰਨਾ recognize ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਬਾਅਦ ਚ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ. Then the third lady who's in this film Hidden Figures, ਉਹਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਸੀਗਾ Mary Jackson. She became the first American and NASA's first female African American aeronautical engineer. On engineering ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ it's a very high profile job and it takes a lot in your mind to actually think in those sort of terms. So in 1979 she was appointed as Langley's Women's Program Manager, where she fought to advance women of all colours. So ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ ਠੀਕ ਸੀ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਆਹ job ਮਿਲ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਪਰ ਗਾਂ ਇਹਨੇ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਰੰਗ ਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ it doesn't matter what colour you were ਪਰ ਉਹਨੇ ਟਰਾਈ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਹਰੇਕ ladies ਨੂੰ ਐਡਵਾਂਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੋ ਜਿੱਥੇ you're really you're excelling in your own expertise.
Should we discuss a little bit more about the film, because it did mock us, find the time to watch this movie because it's such a powerful message in there. It's showing you not to give up, no matter how adverse the environment and people are in the situation. To see fairy, if you're something you're born with that gift, is to pursue it and not give up. And one of the ladies, Catherine, she was actually born with this natural gifts, maths with numbers, you can just figure things out. And so we're born with these gifts. And she was actually offered a full scholarship as the first coloured woman to graduate at Virginia Graduate School. This is obviously that time as a coloured person, it's a big thing.
Because there was a lot of racism around those days. Like it was very, men and women, anybody of colour couldn't sit or had to sit in a specific area in the bus. There's lots of segregation at that time.
Too much. And Choti ji hundi, I think she's about, in the movie it looks like she's probably about 7-8 years old, and she could work out most complicated maths.
Scientific stuff.
And she was in a class full of people like mature students, they couldn't work it out, but she could just work it out. And so obviously that's why she got the the scholarship to go to that Virginia graduate school. And so all these three ladies, they eventually all got together and to work at the space program. This is in this place called Hampton in 1961. And so what happened, although at that time the Russians actually got a man into the orbit.
To the moon, wasn't it?
Well, not to the moon, just into space. This is the first time. So obviously the Americans, they started panicking, thinking, oh my God, the Americans have to be the first in everything. But Russians, space, and obviously they started panicking, the Americans. So they said we need good, people with good minds, scientific and engineering minds, and needed these people on board onto the team. So anyway, somehow these three ladies, did Afro-American, on board, but there was a lot of segregation. They were kept in separate rooms, separate offices. They weren't allowed to use the same toilets as the people. They weren't allowed to use the same tea, coffee, there's a lot of segregation. And Fairy, even though they were part of the team, they weren't allowed to have the same privileges to the Gore Sige. And the boss, I actually can't remember his name now in the movie, but the boss, he was so committed and determined to get the American out in space, but actually go around the orbit, something a bit more than the Russians done. So he was adamant that I got to get the team, I got to get this somehow to work quickly now than ever before. It's like a race. The competition was too much. And so obviously the president of America saying something has to be done quickly now. And so then the boss slowly started to realize what is actually causing this, whether it's obstruction, the delay in the Americans getting into space, and really found out what it was. It's the segregation, the Gores and the African Americans on one side. So he realized he needed to stop this. So what he did, he made sure, because the funny crazy part in the movie was because the ladies at toilet seat for Afro-American, it's like
45 minutes away.
45 minutes. They couldn't use it. The toilet seat is right next to the office. They weren't allowed to use that because they're Gore and but she had to sort of like run up in the rain or whatever with her files and everything, running to go to the toilet. Running back. And all this was actually causing the obstruction, was causing the delay in getting the American into the space.
Yeah, because if you think about the time element, that's an hour and a half out of your day.
Exactly.
Every day, which is causing a delay. If you've got somebody on board who's got this brilliant mind and they can't go to the toilet when they need it.
Right next to the room the toilet was.
It's terrible.
So the boss into the office in there where they're working, you think she's never at a desk there. Obviously she needs to go to the toilet. So then he realized what was going on. He also realized that what she could work out, on a scientific level, her mind, the stuff that had been there for years and years and years, they couldn't sort of work out at all.
And that created a lot of jealousy, animosity, especially because she was black and African American. But and that obviously caused a lot of issues between them, and that wasn't very nice.
It was a very hostile environment for her to work in. But Phoebe, I don't know any himmat on this African American. They're so committed to their work, they just tolerated it.
And I think they could see the bigger picture. They weren't concerned about how they were being treated. For them, it was about the mission.
I suppose they also felt grateful they even got a position in the space program.
Definitely.
So they somehow just cut out. They'll be the last ones to leave. So they were just committed to their work. And obviously, the boss realized that these people have got brilliant scientific minds, engineering minds. So then he started to stop this segregation. Knows everybody has to work together. But that's when things started happening. That's when even the astronauts and they started trusting more these African Americans than the people.
But that took time, didn't it?
It
definitely took time.
So that was really good because at that time the first IBM computer came out, and one of the ladies, what was her name? Was it not Mary? The other one, Dorothy.
Dorothy Vaughan.
Yeah, Dorothy Vaughan. She was the only one that could actually make the IBM system work. The computer did it. Other qualified they just didn't know how to get the system set up and running. And Dorothy and Chori come from office and go in there, work it out, and she even trained her own. Her staff was the rest of the African American. So without those three ladies, what we're trying to say, they had brilliant minds, scientific, engineering, incredible minds. Without them, they weren't able to have got that man the astronaut into space, and then also the Apollo 11, that was the first man to land on the moon.
And I mean, that's an amazing film. It's so good to watch. So, watch this film. It's called Hidden Figures. It's about these three amazing ladies who are an inspiration to all of us, because watching it was quite difficult. How they were being treated, but still they did what they needed to do, and they showed that the resilience, being treated the way they were even at that time. So we're now going to go on to talk about From Basics of Sikhi. I'm sure we're all aware of that. It's a very famous organisation. So more than 500 years ago, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, and this goes back to International Women's Day, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji said this so many, like 500 years ago, over 500 years, So kyo manda akhiye jit jamme rajan. And this means, why call her inferior, from whom kings are born? And it's such a beautiful, quote from the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and I do love this. And so this is where, Sikh women who gave their lives to Guruji and the Sikh Panth, let us remember their courage, their leadership, acceptance, faith and service, and strive to embrace their qualities in our own lives. And before we go on to each individual person that we can mention, I think it just goes to show that sometimes we forget our own history in terms of International Women's Day. We just think it's something that the Americans brought in, and I know it started from there, but if you think going back to Sikhism, it goes back right from the beginnings of Sikhi, which is such a beautiful and amazing thing, because they thought all those years ago that women are as powerful, equal to men. And I think sometimes we need to be, as women and not only as men, that we need to be reminded that we are
but I don't
equal.
Understand why this history is so powerful, but yet we forget. We get so engrossed in our environment, our community, our family setup, that we still think ourselves we're less than whoever's in our family, connections and everything. But it's just like a very strong program. But this is why these reminders we need to be aware of very much more often. That, and we somehow dismissed it, thinking, oh, something happened a long time ago, it's just a story. But it isn't just a story. It's Apne Guru. They did emphasize that this equality is always been there. So what is making us feel inferior is our own mindset. It's something that we believe we're less than, and that's only we can change. We can't accept someone to make us feel equal. We got to stop feeling inferior, stop feeling less than, and then start connecting with our greatness.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to just go into a few of the people that we mentioned who are very, very important within the Sikh religion. And the first person is Mai Bhago. She fearlessly led 40 Singhs into the battle Mukatsar, and later became the personal bodyguard of Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji. She was also a Brahmgyani. She was an enlightened one. And then we've got Mata Kivi Ji. I mean, obviously you can read more about these people who are, so inspiring. Mata Kivi Ji created a revolution where women came forward to serve. Sangat used to come to seek the darshan of Guru Angad Dev Ji and tasted the nectar like kheer Mataji was known to make so beautifully.
Wow.
So lovely, isn't it? Just hearing that.
And there's Bibi Sharan Kaur Ji, and upon hearing of the battle of Chamkaur, she cremated the bodies of 40 Sikhs and 2 elder Sahibzade, despite facing certain deaths at the hands of the Mughal forces. And there was also Mata Gujri Ji. She was having gone through so many hardships, in her life. Mata Ji became the mother after 30 years and became a martyr alongside her husband and her grandchildren.
And then we've got Mata Sahib Diwan Ji, the mother of the Khalsa Panth. So she took leadership of the Panth alongside Mata Sundari Ji after the Jyoti Jyot of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So she brought together the Panth and moulded great personalities like Bhai Jassa Singh Aluwala, and Guru's already promoted equality, so no difference between men and women. So we've already discussed this about how Rab is like the universe, it's like the womb. Men realised that women felt that they could not survive thousands of years ago without realizing that women are creators, and without women we'd all cease to exist.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere along the line we've kind of forgotten what our own power is.
Yeah.
And being a male dominated society, especially in lots and lots of cultures, we forget that we are strong, and we are the same and more in terms of who we are, and that goes right back to what Guru Nanak Dev Ji said.
Yeah, let me just talk a little bit more about that. We talk about how powerful women are, and I think men, many eons of time, they knew women had this very creative powers in us. And I'm talking about creative power, Jitha Sade, like you said, Bachedani, the womb area. This is where creation is born, a new beginning, a new start. And if you think about the universe here, that's the same. It's like a womb, and it's the same energy that we have, the women have in their womb area. It's all about creation, where we create from our imagination, where we create, and from this force of energy of love and God. So women have this powerful energy, but somehow we've not made ourselves believe that. We sort of like bought into the false illusion of that men are more in authority, men have more power, they're supposed to be the protectors, the leaders, but there'd be no protectors or leaders without the woman, without the womb. You know, the woman gave birth to these protectors and leaders. So like I said, without woman there'd be no existence, there'd be no universe, there'd be no world, nothing. Women are that creates everything. So but once we understand sadi and Shakti hagi, and that we can never be less than. You know, we can respect everyone, but there's no point respecting everyone if you don't respect our greatness. And women somehow just, and maybe it's not even women, no, it's no one's fault here. I think men have probably realized this Shakti women had, and they somehow, I'm talking about probably men who already knew about the spiritual laws many generational eons of time ago. And they realize that if the women get to know this Shakti inhabit them, they can be much more overpowering. But men, obviously, the ego, what do we call the ego, thinking, well, the only way we can make women not aware of this Shakti in them is to make them feel less than, that we're the ones that are here to protect and dominate the world, be in leadership roles. So women somehow probably been hardwired over times that women always feel their identity without a man, they're nothing, they're worthless, they're meaningless, they need a man's name to make them feel that only then we have reason to be here.
I mean, obviously that's such a big topic, and we are going to go through a lot of it now. And one of the things we're going to mention is codependency. Codependency can be mentioned as any relation between two people.
Yeah. So it's like codependency can be defined as any relationship, like say two people, when they become so invested in each other that they can't function independently. So become so like, it's only if they're there, then I can make the decision. So your mood, happiness, your identity is defined by other person. In a codependent relationship, there's usually one person who's more passive and can't make decisions for themselves, and there's always a one more dominant personality, you know, who gets satisfaction from controlling the other person and making decisions about how they will live. I mean, in future episodes we'll discuss more about this, how the dynamics between someone who's passive, you know, anxious, and one who's more the dominating one, the aggressive one, likes to be in control. This all comes to codependency, and this codependency kitto shuru hoya, where somehow women started to believe that we're less than, we're inferior, that men has to be the leadership ones, and they're the ones who rule the world, they're the ones who protect and dominate us. But this codependency really makes a woman feel so small and insignificant, and that's where we lose connection to our Shakti, our power.
So if we're going to go back on, I can explain it a little bit in Punjabi. Jithe तीमी आदमी हैगे या एक जना थोड़ा कि जो दूजे नालों स्ट्रॉन्ग या तो दूजे नूं हुंदा या भी जो कुछ भी उन्होंने कहना है भी मैं वो ही सुननी है ओ यू नो ओ दे डोंट फील उन्होंने लगता भी मैं कुछ कह नहीं सकती करके उन्होंने क्या है भी इदा करनी है so I can't challenge that. So power हुंदा है, there's a power struggle going on तो कदे-कदे you can see the power struggle but sometimes you can't करके बाहरों दुनिया नूं इदा लगदा that between the man and the woman everything's fine, but there is definitely something going on करके जिथे तुसी discuss नहीं करते कोई भी you know when issues with between a husband and a wife, if they can't sit and discuss it in a calm way, then clearly somebody within that relationship has got more power. So एक जाने दे कोल थोड़ा कि ज़्यादा power हुंदा तो दूजे दे कोल घट हुंदा. Then what we're saying is be as ladies or even as men करके जेड़े भी असी प्रोग्राम करते it is about equality whether you're the man or the woman कि असी चाहते हैं कि both people should be treated equally with respect there should be equality that जो कुछ भी वो सोचते हैं it should be considered but we know सानू पता भी that's not the way it happens and that's something that you know over time असी change कर सकते हैं and codependency बहुत टाइम लगता है क्योंकि कई बारी जिदा असी अज गल्लां करदे सी कई बारी सानू पता भी नहीं हैगा that we're dependent on somebody because it's just something बहुत चिरां दा automatically जिदा सानू छोटे होंदे नु क्या होगा उच्चा नहीं बोलना चाहिदा रौला नहीं पाईदा कुड़ियां इदां नहीं करदियां कुड़ियां इदां नहीं करदियां so we know सानू हुंदा भी this is the way we should behave and then that changes who we are anyway that kind of forces us as ladies to not raise our voice or feel like we can be counted but this is changing over time it is changing anyway the next one that we're going to talk about is financial freedom financial freedom da matlab hunda vi jithe ladies and men we are talking about ladies mainly but you've got financial freedom the freedom eda matlab hega ya financial independence ke je kuch ho jave between a man and a wife be ladies ਨੂੰ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਪੈਸੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਈਡ ਤੇ ਰੱਖੇ ਕਿ we can still be independent ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ ਤੋਂ ਬਗੈਰ ਹਸਬੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਬਗੈਰ ਫੇਰ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੈਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਖੜ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ we just give all the control of the money as well as you know the mortgage the house the bills everything to the man ਅਸੀਂ ਫਿਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ so we have no idea about what goes on with the money ਤਾਂ ਕਦੇ ਕਦੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ you know you have a joint account and you don't even know what money is in your account so because one person's got control of the app or anything like that but it's important for women to understand that भी तुसी भी कमा सकते तुसी भी अपने पैसे रख सकते अपने कोल you know it's important to share but it's also important to be independent you know पैसे तुसी इकट्ठे भी रखो पर अपने लिए भी रखो थोड़े कि जाए
I suppose this goes back to very connecting to codependency because I mean you grow up young girls grow up thinking oh it's the dad who brings in all the money dad feeds us dad's the one
bacon
yeah exactly dad's one
the bacon
you know he pays all the bills dad is the one does everything so it's already like conditioned and programmed thinking that we're deeply dependent on a man to provide us financial you know support but really it keeps you stuck and it keeps you in a very disempowering way you know because you feel like without them how am I going to survive so in a way this becomes like you said a power struggle again because a man will feel like without me you can't survive so he makes him feel really you know they depend on me I'm something great and wonderful because there's some men the masculine energy likes that they like people to think that I'm something they like to be put on a pedestal really but the woman feels like in the passive thing you know without you I can't survive I need you but also the woman likes that to be taken care of they like to receive you know they like to be you know be the ones that there's someone out there protecting me and but at the end of the day it might on the surface look like this is a way to function throughout life but deeper on a soul level it's not very it's a very powerless way to exist
it's not necessarily a healthy relationship you know not in today's society and that's what we're talking about and the next topic we're going to discuss is transport
so independence also comes you know getting around having the confidence and the ability to drive enhances women's lives you know so not waiting for someone to take you from A to B especially when you get older so this is very important you know I think most women do drive now but I do feel it does give that bit of independence and
I think now there's older women that want to learn to drive because they don't want to have to rely on somebody else so transport relying on yourself but even having your own bus pass having the confidence to go out ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਜਾਵੋ because it's important that you know ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਤੇ rely ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਚਿਰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ my nanny used to say ਜਿੰਨੇ ਚਿਰ ਚਲਦੀਆਂ ਚਲਾਵੋ you know don't stay at home thinking you know waiting for someone to take you somewhere you can do it yourself there's Uber there's taxis there's so many things that you can do
but I do know I mean sometimes I have spoken to guys apne sianiya ladies है ना and we asked them to see ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ she goes ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਇੱਥੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਰਦੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ and ਅਸੀਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਂਦੇ she goes ਸਾਰੇ ਬਿਜ਼ੀ ਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੰਮਾਂ 'ਚ ਬਿਜ਼ੀ ਆ ਕਿਸ ਕੋ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਤੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣ ਨੂੰ and then you think that because you know, that woman's, most of her life she's been dependent on others to take her everywhere. It's mostly her husband she always been dependent on to take her, and he probably did. But when the husband's not there and the children are so busy, this is when a woman actually really does, you know, feel left out and alone.
And it's not even just that. It's nice to be able to go to the gym, go and see your friends, go to the Gurdwara, or whatever it is that people want to do. And it's nice to be able to do that as long as you can, as long as you've got the health and the capacity. The next one is have reproductive rights, as well as shared responsibility when on maternity leave, as well as pay. So either way, you know, it's the right to have a child or not, to have the choice, so many choices, and unfortunately, even in this day and age, majority of women do not even have a voice, let alone a choice. So ਇੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ you know, ਜਿੱਥੇ ladies ਨੂੰ, they may not want more than 2 children or 3, but sometimes ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ, you know, they feel pressured into having more, and this is in different cultures. We're not just talking about within the Asian community. So it's really about thinking, well, you know, this is what I want. I need to decide and make a decision about what I want, and sometimes that can be hard, but it's about getting the support so that you can go through with the decision that you really want.
There's some families, some couples, especially ladies, they expect to have a child within the next couple of years, and as soon as 3-4 years gone past, they do feel that pressure.
And that's what we're talking about, because I don't even think it's a thing where very few, if any, Asian women will say, I'm not having children, and you know, their parents or their in-laws will be happy about that. But the next topic is end violence and abuse against women. So
we would like to think that abuse and violence, you know, would stop. Unfortunately, in this prevalent in all societies, and there are so many reward and satisfaction from controlling the other person and making decisions about how they will and how will they live. This is the one, isn't it? Yeah. So you know, when we're talking about ending violence, you know, this goes back again to the woman deciding that this is what you know, within that relationship, maybe she feels that that's the only thing that she can get, or she's scared of being judged by other people, and how, you know, society, community, her family are going to treat her, and it's such a big thing. And I think, you know, it does continue for so many different reasons. And this is where we want to kind of break the barrier and make women understand that you can still survive, you know, even if that is the situation that you're currently in. Do you want to explain any bit more examples with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind using myself as an example. You know, unfortunately, my parents, you know, there was domestic violence within that relationship, and my mum did have to walk away from my dad. But luckily, my mum had her parents. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that support mechanism within their you know, immediate circle, and they don't feel that they're going to get supported or anything like that. But I think it was a case of, if that hadn't happened, then obviously the alternative was going to be much worse. So ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ, you know, ਕਦੇ-ਕਦੇ, you know, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ relationship ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ, you know, there is disrespect, there is violence, there is emotional abuse, physical abuse, all these things. ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਾਈ ਭਾਗੋ ਦੀਆਂ, you know, ਮਾਤਾ ਖੀਵੀ ਜੀ and all these other amazing ladies, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, you know, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਕੋਈ ਡਰ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ, because they knew what they wanted. ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ladies in today's society shouldn't have to put up with that. I mean, it's not a choice. We're not saying it's a choice. It's something that unfortunately does happen, but there is a lot of support out there for you, but sometimes it's just about taking the first step.
I mean, I can share a little bit about this, that we know so many people, don't we? We know sometimes the environment, the society, culture, they know that there's something not happening on a healthy relationship and there's domestic violence going on. And then we wonder, why do they just stay there? Why don't they just move away? And why don't they just leave? You know, what is them keeping them stuck there? And it's usually, this is when it happens more on the way the person thinks, their beliefs, their mindset. It's something like, again, it's something when they were young, they're probably in an environment where there was violence, where there was a lot of physical abuse and emotional abuse as well, because that's just as dangerous as physical abuse. But as a child, they just wanted to be loved, but and they did not have the strategy, or they couldn't conceptualize how to run away from a situation like that, because that's all they got used to. So they thought, I'm just going to stay here, and one day they have this thing that I might just get that attention, I might just get that love. So they just persevere with the situation, and they can't find a way how to run away, because that's something they're not learned to do. So these are the people that, even like you said, the environment, people, the culture, they know that something there is not healthy, but why do they still remain in a situation where it's very dangerous? It's very dangerous, very volatile, so hostile, and it could take their life. The reason they stay there, because they do not know on a mental level how to walk away, because something they couldn't learn when they were young. As a young child, you cannot walk away from that, because that's all your world is, your dunya. So that's a pattern that plays out in adult life. And that's why we might help them. Let's say we have this organization, let's help people with deal with domestic violence and abuse. Okay, you take them away. On a practical level, you might take them away from that home. You find sooner or later that same person will attract another relationship with the same sort of theme, where they'll be treated abusively and being physically attacked, whatever, because that's all they know. And you're thinking, why is this happening again? Or even if they've been taken away, they find themselves going back to that same relationship.
And it's all to do with your own self-worth, how you love yourself, how you care about yourself. And sometimes, if you're in a violent relationship or something like that, sometimes your own family will push you to go back into that relationship, because ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੁਦੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆ. They don't want people to know. But the funny thing is, everybody knows. ਆਪਾਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, but everybody knows. So ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਰਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਜਬੂਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਹੀਏ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਰਹੋ, ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਖੁਸ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ. So why are we doing that? It's more important that ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਕੁੜੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਮੁੰਡਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਤੇ ਹੈਪੀ, ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਦਿਖਾਈਏ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਠੀਕ ਹਾਂ. But that's no way to live. All these amazing ladies who've just been speaking about, they never made any compromises. They made a decision, they did it, and they went with it. And through God's grace and God's blessings, they did what they felt they were here to do. And they progressed and they became famous because there was no kind of wavering. And this is where we've got to respect and understand that whether it's a lady that's in not a very good relationship or a man, that all they need is our love and support in making the decision that's best for them, not best for us. We want what's good for us. Everybody's selfish in their own way. ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ try again, but inside they know they don't work, it doesn't fit. So and it's not healthy for the children, because the children are sorry to interrupt,
it's
but
okay.
the children are learning from that behavior, and they are going to be then carrying that trauma into their future relationships. So we have a responsibility, not just the man, but both people within that relationship have a responsibility towards their children to take care of them, and not to continue that pattern of trauma.
And like I said, we can support someone as much as we can, but until aapne na changi tarah decision banande that I'm going to work on myself, I need to find out what is in me that keeps attracting this situation. Kuch nahi badalna haiga. So women who are domestically abused, she can have all the external support, but until she does not do that support within herself, she'll find herself in the same situation again and again and again. So she needs to realize that, take her attention away from Bali Dunya, why they treated me like this, why am I allowing it, why am I thinking it's okay, and what is stopping me from breaking free from this. That's where she needs to find out, and that's where she can find liberation and freedom and happiness in her life again.
And it can happen, going back to my own mum, she did have a great life after, she split up with my dad, and I'm sure she was very worried, concerned, and there was a lot of judgment, especially in those days. But things are better. Sometimes you think that it's better just to stay where you are because it's the safer option. But honestly, it's better not to be in that situation, and to find the courage and to utilize everybody that you can in order to get yourself into a safe place.
Yeah. So do you want to go on to the next one?
Yeah, so the next one that we were going to discuss is equal pay and conditions as well as opportunities. So women are less likely to be promoted, especially if they want to start a family. So because of this, they're looked on as less favourably due to gaps in employment. So a man can have a career as well as a family, but frowned upon for women, and sometimes women judge more than men and can be the biggest blocks against women. So either way, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ladies decide ਵੀ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ that they want a career, they don't want a family. Unfortunately, and this is the saddest part about International Women's Day, I think, क्योंकि अपनी ladies encourage नहीं करदियां ladies ਨੂੰ कि हाँ भी तुसी जरूर करो ये काम. We are actually the people, through jealousy, insecurity, competition, judgment, you know, ਅਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਹੋਰ ladies ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਵਧਣ. You know, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਰਲੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਾਂ ਨਾ ਵਧੋ. So that's a shame, but if you have the feeling that no, I want to do this, this is where my you know, this is where my expertise is, please do go ahead and do it. You will meet people who are on your level, and unfortunately those people who aren't, they will be part of your past and not necessarily part of your future. They can still be, but chances are, you know, unfortunately their insecurities get the better of them. Yeah.
And we talk about the next one is interesting fact.
Yeah. We've enjoyed doing this. It's so much fun.
So we were quite surprised in a way, like, you know, because we think India we're more sort of like more attached. Backward, more traditional, and but women having to be, you know, the ones that just nurture the family, not to pursue their careers. But actually, India has the highest percentage of female pilots in the world. This is to be celebrated, and this actually began in 2004 when a woman called Zoya Agarwal, and she was part of this handful of female pilots in India, and she became the youngest pilot to fly the Boeing 777 in India.
I know.
And when she told her mom, this is interesting, when she told her mom that I wanted to be a pilot, choti ji hundi sigi, and then mom she started crying, rondi sigi, don't follow this path, you know, Twenty Sonia, I want you to get married, I want you to have a family, you know. But Zoya, she was shurito, she knew this is what she's meant to do. And then Zoya's mother actually she was very proud, and you know, now because her daughter turned out, you know, she's you know, something to be celebrated in the whole world. You know, pehla ohi maa jodi rokdi sigi kende ne tu, you know, badi ho ke tu biyah karna, bacche hone, just get, you know, you can get a job here or here, but not to do something to this scale. And ohi maa kende hun ohi, she cries now, but cries tears of joy.
I mean, there's such a beautiful story. I mean, if you jitone chance milya, please read up about Zoya Agarwal, because she's such an inspiration to ladies. And tahi India de vich jadi ladies pilots baniya, because obviously it takes one person to start a domino effect. But karke ਅਸੀਂ ਡਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਕਹੂਗਾ, ਸਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨਾ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੂਗੀ. But if you have that burning desire to do something, I mean, and I always encourage, especially, you know, when I used to work at school, that children, you know, if you encourage your children to go into the path of whatever they really enjoy, they will, you know, that's where everything can happen. But ਅਸੀਂ ਡਰਦੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਬਣੋ, hospital ਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੋ, you know, it's very limited. And we have that sort of same mindset, that's the best job. Well, no, there is so much more that we can do, you know. I mean, there's so many different you know, children can do so many things, and we can be proud of that if we will allow them to be the person that they want to be, and because we can be the actual people that hold them back more than anybody else. It usually stems from the family.
Oh, it does. It's also always pressure from society and the family members thinking, you know, that you got to have a certain career that obviously would make family di wawa hogi, you know, shabash hogi. And so obviously, you know, girls always tend to do things like, remember my younger days, it was business studies, always something to do with cooking. What else was it? Girls, when we had to make choices of careers we could pursue.
Needlework.
Needlework. They were hobbies. I think like more like it's mainly was like to do with working in a bank.
Yeah.
You could work in a bank, look very respectable.
Or an office.
Or an office.
Yeah.
You know, those sort of things. Look, you know, something look nice on your rishta list. You know. And doctor was good, but even then. I think a lot of girls did pursue those sort of careers more than, let's say, doing like working on engineering or whatever. But like you said, these when we talked about the story about the hidden figures, those African American, they had minds even greater than the men, that they could do these calculations and scientific minds, and they actually went in engineering. But I'm sure a lot of apne ladies, obviously, like Sare Mulkan, India having the high percentage of pilots. I mean, that's there, it tells you.
There's the wow factor there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, something you show off about.
So, you know, women can achieve any, you know, career, anything. So we shouldn't limit ourselves thinking this is a man's job, this is a lady's job. No, women can do everything. And the thing is, right, it's the other way around. Man can also do a lady's job. You know, look, if you think about the greatest chefs in the world are men. Men do all the things to do with like dancing careers and, you know, so a lot of things that men do are very good at, like women's, you know, passions and careers.
I just wanted to go back about the equal pay and conditions as well as opportunities. There's this amazing African American guy called Steve Harvey, and he's one of my favorite people, and he talks about pay and things like that. He says that couple ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੋ ਜਾਣਿਆਂ 'ਚ 4 account ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ. So the man and the woman, they should have one joint account ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਬਿੱਲ ਪੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ. ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ account ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਦੋਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਛੁੱਟੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਸੇਵ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ for holidays. ਤਾਂ ਦੋ ਹੋਰ account ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੱਲਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ. So the man has a separate account, the woman has a separate account. Nothing to do with the man, nothing to do with the woman. So basically ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਲੈਣੀਆਂ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੈਸਿਆਂ ਚੋਂ, they can do that. So they feel that they're so independent ਕਿ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਚੀਜ਼ ਕੋਈ ਲੈਣੀ, I don't have to ask my husband. My husband doesn't need to see it in the account that I've bought this for myself or for my children or whatever. So that's because you've both earned the right. If you're both earning, you also have the right to use your money together, but also separately. And I think that's so good.
I think it's good.
And I'm just going to mention about one of my immediate family members, who's sadly passed away now. She saved up so much money that her husband wasn't even aware of, and it was all for all the grandchildren. And she'd say, and this is just out of shopping, he'd give her a bit of money. This is somebody in India. She'd give her so much money, and then she managed to save so much, but that all of the children had a decent amount, and that was what she left. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing. He had no idea that she was scrimping all of this money away, but for the children. And I just thought that was such a beautiful thing to do.
It is, and you don't realise there is a reward at the end of it. And it's going to come so useful, that money. And that's a very good idea. It's a good thing to do. But I was watching this movie. It's called The Big Fat Greek Wedding.
I've heard of it. I don't know.
It's a very good movie. This is about, you know, it's the Italian family. They're more like Indians. The bull and trikan, and their culture is very similar. And there's a bit in there when this lady is sitting in the cafe in the restaurant, and the lady goes, you know, she goes, you know, the men, she goes, they like the head, and I said, women, who are the women? She goes, women are the neck. They tell you which way to move the head without the neck.
Oh, I love that.
Without the neck, you can't turn which way. So I find that really interesting, because they always have that saying, you know, behind a very successful man
is an even more successful woman.
Yes, a woman is there. We're on this journey of partnership to support each other. There shouldn't be like competition. There shouldn't be someone that's, you know, like a hierarchy, you know, someone better or higher or lower. There should be equal, and that's Sapne Gurus did that. They're saying that there should be equality. Without women, there's no men. And men also need women, you know, so we all need each other, but there shouldn't be this dominant sort of trait in people.
And just before we finish, I've just thought that where we're saying that, you know, a woman or a man can be in a relationship where there's been some kind of abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, you know, we know that the men that have come into that relationship with that mindset, or the woman, that they've suffered some sort of trauma themselves, for them to have brought that into the relationship, and they need help. So it's not, we can make them, we can fix that person, you know, we can love them and things will be right. But until that person realizes that there's something wrong with them, as in they need to look at whatever traumas caused them to behave in a not a very nice way, then that's not going to stop. So if you are one of those kind of people that does get really angry, does become violent, does drink a lot, does take drugs or any of these things, then please seek some kind of help, because you know your life can become so much better when you actually realize that the problem it isn't because you've created the problem, but it's come from somewhere that's affected you. And you know, you need help, and we care about everybody in the same way. It's not just about women, it's about the men as well.
That's right, and if you're connected with any partnership, there has its purpose in it. So you really are to not to have a go at each other, but come into an understanding. You know, that the reason I'm connected with you is because we're both healing and growing together. Instead of going against each other's, you know, bad qualities, just see like, what is it? If this is for me to learn from this, you know, if it's a really bad experience. So this is what life is all about. You know, use the relationship as a way of just to ourselves to grow, and not about competition, not about being dominant.
And lastly, believe in yourself and your dreams, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.